Hello? Hello, hello? I did. Can anybody hear me? Yeah. Fabulous. Hello?
Hello, everyone. We're going to get started with a really cool presentation by Jen on AI and human eyes. So, Jen, take the floor.
Yay, thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to IntelliCon for putting on an amazing con. I am Jen Quas. I am a Midwesterner, so I like to use a pun in my name. I do cyber threat intelligence. I sometimes go by cyber threat intelligence, or just CTI Gen for short. And today I want to share with you a use case of how we are implementing AI into our CTI lifecycle, but it's definitely going to be alongside very human analysts. So who am I? I work at a SaaS company called Zendesk. You might know it. We do ticketing software. If you have any questions about the platform, you can definitely ask me. I might know, but I can definitely point you in the right direction of somebody that would know. I've been there for 9 years in March. I started as IT service desk and then had just so much fun. I should probably be looking at the slide, huh? So much fun on incident response and helping on incidents in IT that I interviewed for a SOC position. It was a SOC of 6 in 2018, and we're now 33. So we had to wear a lot of hats back then, and I was ultimately able to find my passion in CTI. Outside of work, I coach at my local gym. I'm a member of the 501st Legion of Star Wars cosplayers. It's not on here, but I 3D print, and I've 3D printed an entire stormtrooper that I've worn to cosplay. We'll talk later. I currently call Michigan home, but I grew up in Wisconsin, so I'm obsessed with both state sports teams, particularly the Detroit Pistons right now. Any Pistons fans are here? And I recently got super into Dungeons & Dragons and playing Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah. I'm also looking for a campaign if anybody has any leads, but we'll get to that later. All right, agenda. So like I said, today I want to share with you how we are solving one of our priority intelligence requirements utilizing AI. First, we'll look at the requirement that we received from our leadership. Then we'll discuss some of the issues that I, and I'm sure all of us, have run into trying to use AI tools to automate the fulfillment of said requirement. And finally, we'll actually talk about how we implemented the human-in-the-loop process as like a happy compromise. Hopefully, if I haven't yet too much, we should get to lunch a little early, but I do want to talk about the future of this project, as well as start a discussion around how you all are utilizing AI in your CTI life cycles or at work, and feedback on this process. Okay, the PIR. Ooh, that's not a good graphic. That's okay. So let's look at the intelligence requirement that we received from our leadership team. It looks super common for you guys as well. Identify current or emerging TTPs, tooling, infrastructure or targeting behaviors used by threat actors that pose a material risk to, insert your company, and provide actionable intelligence to enable the threat hunting team to proactively detect or disrupt aforementioned threats. Big, long PIR, ultimately saying, we need you to take all this intel, ingest it, and try to automate the process of giving actionable intel to your threat hunting team. So for us, we had already set up kind of a set of top actors that we're constantly reviewing every quarter at my org, which made the scope of this PIR super easy to narrow down quickly. But if your org doesn't have that, or you're just doing this as like a homegrown project, don't worry, it's really easy to plug and play actors into this process, or you can really just leave them blank. Because we already had our actors, we started at the top with identifying current or emerging TTPs. We thought this would be a great opportunity to utilize AI to help process all of this intel that we're ingesting. And that's when we encountered the hurdle that made us realize we are going to need a human-in-the-loop solution. Man, sorry, y'all. These did not come through. But as I'm sure you're all aware, we're going to talk about hallucinations, and I'll walk you through what that blank square is at the bottom there. For example, we started looking at this Google Threat Intelligence Group article. It's about a China Nexus threat actor exploiting an Avanti vulnerability. You all might have even seen it. And we were like, all right, bet, let's use AI and try to summarize this. So I'm not a prompt engineer, so be gentle. We use the prompt, could you please review this article and tell me what devices or software is impacted and anything else you think I should know about? We got back a great summary, a really long summary, more than what would be shown in that blank box. But what was shown in the blank box said additional key points. And it essentially told us that this activity can be attributed to the Russian threat actor Callisto or Cold River. You got it. It's not. We took a look and said, wait a second. That article didn't mention Callisto or Russia or Cold River at all, which made us realize we are going to need to review these prompts. But I did tell ChatGPT it was wrong, and it complimented me, so no big deal. So how did we solve for this? We used a hybrid approach using tried and true yes-no binary keyword matching for filtering to help process the collection, as well as AI to make secondary relevancy and deduping decisions and suggestions. But before we do any kind of dissemination of that, we always bring it back to an analyst for review. I also want to share some quick behind the scenes with you. So I originally implemented this process in our threat intelligence platform. We used Threat Connect. We used their low-code, no-code automation builder. If anybody does use Threat Connect, come talk to me afterwards. We can discuss how to implement this, and you can share your successes. But I realized not everybody uses Threat Connect, or even has the tip. So in a very meta kind of series of events, I was creating a presentation on how to use AI and CTI and realized another use case for AI and CTI, which was utilizing Cursor to help me write this script and achieve the same thing in an open source script that all of you can just take and use immediately, not having to have Threat Connect. All right, so high-level overview of the process and how it accomplishes our PIR. We'll look at each of these steps. So, but to summarize, first, the script pulls in your designated feeds, your OSINT feeds, and looks for the adversary names and keywords. Then those are going to be sent to a model for validation that they're substantively about that actor and those emerging techniques. Then those that were deemed substantive go back to the model, and they get deduped, because we all know if a story is juicy enough, 14 cybersecurity publications are going to talk about it. The deduping is going to help our threat hunters or stakeholders by sending consolidated intel, but it's going to be validated by several sources. And finally, we get the outputs for human review that are going to include that actionable intelligence to enable detection and disruption before sharing it with your stakeholders. Cool. So starting with those keywords and adversary checks, a lot of the customization, as I'm sure you all well know, is going to happen in your config file. You add what model you want to use. We are using, I think, 4.4. It's old. We might have updated it. But how recent you want the intel to be, which will depend on how frequent you want to run the script. We are not worried about like token optimization. I'm very lucky in my org, so we can run it daily. And what threat actors are most relevant to you, and where you want all this intel to be coming from. Some RSS feeds, as I'm sure you can see, won't love being scraped, but Hacker News, Secure List are a couple that I've found work. And there's also functionality in the script for custom feeds that require auth, or feeds that aren't RSS feeds and might give like a JSON output. After a while of doing this, we've also found that there are keywords that indicate uselessness, so to speak, and we found phrases that if a title or intel starts with, I think one was like beacon detected, yeah, we were getting tons of those through a MISP instance, and we were like, these are not useful. So there's also a space for you to edit out words and phrases. And lastly, in the config file, you'll see where you can specify where the output should live and its naming convention. All right, so once you have that slightly smaller list of potentially relevant intel, thanks to the pre-filtering of using keyword matching, we were finally then able to turn to our AI models. First, this model is going to perform 6 tasks. We have the substantive classification. The model is going to make another binary yes/no decision. Is this article actually about the threat actor's campaign or TTPs, or just a passing mention? If it decides that it is substantive, it'll give actor attribution and align it with the threat actor that is predefined in your config file. Number 3, it's going to give a relevant explanation. It'll explain why it might be relevant to your org, and the way it is right now in the open source script, it is pretty general. You can tailor this down to your specific type of company, whatever you're comfortable sharing with an LLM. So like right now, a relevance decision might look like, this article contains active APT phishing campaign. This is going to be relevant for organizations in the government sector or those with similar attack surface. You can customize the script like we have and say, if you're comfortable just saying you're a tech company, or a software company, or a SaaS company, or a SaaS ticketing platform tech company, as specific as you want to be. That way your why is this relevant will be a little bit more bespoke. This first AI model is also going to give you the TTP extraction. In its current form, it's going to give you 5 TTPs, up to 5, so that way it doesn't just hallucinate and create TTPs, up to 5. Hunting guidance generation, it's going to create actionable SOC-friendly recommendations. And lastly, it's going to give you a confidence rating. This is the first of 2 confidence ratings we have our AI model using in this process. It's going to be between 0 and 1, and it's going to give you the score based on how certain it is on its substantive classification, based on how directly the article discusses the threat actor versus the passing mention, the quality and specificity of the TTPs, and the clarity of the campaign information. Now we have this second AI callout. You have a group of stories that absolutely mention your keywords and have been found to be meaningful, actionable emerging threats. The script is then going to ask the model of your choosing to dedupe these stories by lumping them into what it's called clusters. This way, when all your feeds cover the same campaign like we talked about, you're not sending multi-articles to your threat hunting team. It doesn't send the entire article. We do focus a little bit on token optimization. Don't worry. The threat actor, the headline, source URL, and like why it's relevant are all that gets sent in the second call. But from there, the model does 6 more things. That wasn't on purpose, but the model keeps doing 6 things, but it does. This call is going to synthesize and group the articles about the same campaign or incident into clusters, but it's going to keep separate clusters for different campaigns. So if you think about like famous Kalima, how they did a contagious interview and wage mole, those would be 2 separate clusters by the script. It is going to merge and dedupe TTPs and hunting guidance across the sources, and it's going to write a consolidated campaign summary. It's also going to preserve all of the articles as citations, so that way you can review them later. And it will reassess, this is that second confidence score, where it's going to say, how confident am I on the combination of intelligence as well? Some built-in safeguards, we do have a 22,000 character payload limit, which is about 50 validated stories. So if you're just running this with just a couple sources, that should be plenty, and only looking for a couple actors. It also checks and makes sure that none of the stories are dropped, and if they do appear to be missing, the missing stories are recovered. So we have some built-in safeguards. And then we finally have beautiful output for your analysts to review and verify. Right now, the output in this script is in 4 formats: an HTML, a JSON, a beautiful markdown, and sticks. There's also a flag for low confidence. It's just an extra flag if it's below that 0.7, saying, hey, definitely look at this. Your analysts are already going to look at this, but it might just need a little bit closer eye. Because this is where that manual intervention, CTI, so to speak, come into play. These output files are meant to go to your CTI analyst for validation, however works best for you. That's why there's those 4 formats. The idea here is for analysts to review the linked sources and verify and enrich the output. What I mean by that is, in this iteration, you want to make sure the TTPs are correct. This is the step that's going to help mitigate those hallucination issues we talked about earlier. The analyst is going to review the cited articles and ensure what is presented in the output makes sense. We're also going to look at the hunting guidance. And if it's kind of vague, like this example, there's two things that we like to do when we get these and we see kind of vague hunting guidance before we send it to our threat hunters. One, I can manually add details if it's like a super random campaign in TTP and it's like, go look for, I don't know, these crazy logs. I will manually go in and say, hey, these log sources are in this table in Snowflake. But if it's something that I get a lot, like create SIM detection for, I will actually take this opportunity to go back and experiment with the prompts and add, again, whatever you're comfortable sharing with an LLM in your setup, what SIM we use, what detections we have. So it can actually give you a better hunting guidance, like create a Splunk query using this, SQL. But once you've verified the output and the hunting guidance, the world's kind of your oyster. This is an example of what it looks like when it gets ingested into sticks without any customization, so it's a little messy. But there are in the script suggestions for Slack or Teams or Discord, but you can really send the output wherever your threat hunters or stakeholders are. So to recap, we have an example of a JSON output, and we have our PIR, just to go over, that we have set up OSINT feeds to be scraped, or whatever custom feeds you want to add in. We've specified what actors and keywords we want our OSINT to key off of, and then we've utilized AI to ensure that the article is truly about the emerging TTPs, infrastructure, tooling, or targeting behaviors of those high-risk actors. And we also were able to use an LLM to consolidate intel about the same campaigns and produce actionable hunting guidance for our threat hunters to proactively detect or disrupt aforementioned threats. We then have a human validate that intel and guidance before disseminating our intel to our stakeholders, fulfilling our PIR. So a little bit of version 2 and beyond, talking about the future. We're already looking at how we can be improving this process. As I'm sure many of you probably are thinking, possibly a custom MCP server. That's what we're thinking right now. Have one trained on our infrastructure and inventory and policies. That way we can get even more tailored intel. For example, what we're thinking is maybe having an MCP server that would ingest, say, all of our AWS service control policies. That way, if there is a TTP about manipulation of an IAM role, it can then report that as an emerging TTP, but also state what SCP we have that would mitigate that, given nothing else was terribly compromised. We also just want to be able to utilize more inventory. So I don't know, I'm sure a lot of folks here struggle with, you want to ingest all of the data. We were actually just talking about that yesterday. We want to ingest all of it, make sure we don't miss anything. So we're looking at tools like our Wiz instance, so that way we can more harshly scrutinize the relevancy prompts. So that way our intel is only about packages and things that we're actually using in our org. We're also investigating other options like OpenAI's skills, because I was on Cybersecurity Cares telethon in December, and most of the people on that telethon, streamathon, were like, MCP's already dead. So we are looking at other options as well. We're also just tweaking the workflow to hopefully include our detection engineering friends. We'd love it to ingest and be part of our SIM, so that way it can look at our rule set. Right now we're doing a very hacky API call to our SIM, which uses then their AI search to be like, does this TTP have a detection? We'd love to actually implement that in a much more seamless way. So we have a lot of big ideas going into 2026 to try to be a little bit more threat-informed defense where I work, and always including that analyst because, as we saw, straight AI is not there yet. But that does bring me to the discussion. I would love to hear from folks how they're utilizing AI in CTI and any feedback on our process. Yes.
How is it determining confidence? Is it like citations or like how is it determining confidence?
I believe, I'm not going to say for sure, but I believe it is mainly going off of strict, almost back to that keyword analysis of looking at a sentence and saying, yes, I'm confident because it says they have a new technique called, or they have a novel technique. I believe it's looking for those types of direct, I am confident that this article is substantively about emerging threats and this actor.
Okay.
I think. Don't quote me on that.
So mostly used as kind of like a filtration mechanism or some sort of assurance mechanism for the analyst that will ultimately make their determinations, right?
That was a much better way to put it. Let's say I said that. Yeah.
Okay.
Super quick question too. When it comes to leveraging AI for threat intelligence, I think one of the challenges I see is honoring TLP while also leveraging AI. And I think part of the problem is a lot of CTI practitioners just arbitrarily send it like TLP read data to third party like OpenAI and Anthropic. Do you have any strategies around that? I prefer local models, but I don't know if you have any strategies around honoring TLP, but also moving fast with LLMs.
No, I completely agree. I also favor local models, but I also, in this instance as well as even at work, we're mainly using it for OSINT. Unless we can lock down like a local MCP server or something incredibly as close to 100% sure we can say is totally locked down, we're only really using this for OSINT. Because, yeah, I agree. It's kind of scary to see how many, not even just CTI, but folks that are sending super sensitive information to LLMs today. Yep, agreed. I wish I had a better answer of like, yeah, no, it's super easy, but I don't trust it yet.
Yeah, so I have a question kind of going off of that. What difficulties have you had kind of creating this with any maybe like change control, governance, because, I see a lot of organizations that are trying to do stuff, even touching AI, and there's a lot of stakeholders who want to be involved, whether it's like DevOps, send DevOps to get it implemented, but also things like insider risk to make sure, hey, you're not uploading sensitive data. So I guess what hurdles, if any, have you like faced during this process?
Oh, so many. Thank you for asking. I guess, let me try to think. I want to form cohesive thoughts on all the hurdles. One of the hurdles we actually faced was we thought we had a local model. And so I was asking around my company, and I'm like, no, I just need a key for our model. So who has a key for our model? And then it got back to ProdSec, and ProdSec was like, oh, no, we just use a proxy. Yeah, don't send stuff there. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that was my first big hurdle, was I was trying to figure out, I want to use our model. I thought it was locked down, and it absolutely wasn't. So then we had to have that discussion and talk about how can we get a model that's actually locked down, because we don't want to be sending all of that information. You mentioned governance. We are super, super lucky. Being at a SaaS tech company, I think we are probably pushing AI first more than a lot of places. I know I live in a community that is not a tech hub. It's a small town in Michigan. We're home of Jiffy Cornbread, if anybody is a fan. But yes, So I know a lot of people there are like, no, AI bad. So it's really interesting to get over that and then come to work and then be like, you need to tell me every week what are your wins and what wins involved AI. So I think probably the security of the model was my biggest hurdle, and then getting stakeholders to agree to create a local model in a 7,000 person company was probably my biggest hurdle. And then honestly, for me, mentally, thinking of AI as a positive tool in my tool belt and not trying to fight it as trying to take my job, because I'm sure we've all talked about we have to automate, but we can automate the OSINT like we talked about, but you can't automate me going into the Telegram channels, me being in curated intelligence group, or me talking to another IR team, and they say, TOP red, here's what we saw, and then I can actually bring that back and make an impact. Did that kind of answer it, or are we looking for more specifics? Yeah, okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, got to work the button. So I don't really have a question. I have more of a comment. You asked us how some of us are using AI right now in production, and how we're using in our organization is we have a packet broker with a DPI engine. Right, so we can see broad packet level behavior, and then we feed that into AI, and I ask it, where is it slow? And it finds it really quick. Or like the non-standard port use case, lateral movement, DNS packets that are 15, 18 packet size, right? That an analyst would really struggle to fix. And with the right prompting, it surfaces it really quick, right? But you don't necessarily need to feed it the PCAP. You just need to feed it the metadata or the output, or you could also generate a list. Right, I've gone to my Elastic dashboard, right-click, download a CSV. I fed that CSV into ChatGPT, and I asked it where are the threats in my DNS. And I found that's really effective and overlooked for most threat hunting, because most people look at the EDR top down, but there's a whole world of low maturity lateral movement that threat actors use. It's also a great way to find IoT, medical IoT through network time protocol, because those things are stupid. And instead of scanning for them, you can passively observe and see them. And the LLM really makes that possible. Because before, it's just an ocean of data that you can't make sense of. So that was my comment.
Have you tested different LLMs or found a favorite?
Honestly, the network RFCs are 20 to 40 years old at this point, right?
Okay.
I mean, their behavior is well understood. I don't have a particular favorite. Now, we air gap it, of course, but here's the other interesting thing I found useful for LLM and network telemetry: compliance. Right? So I can suddenly tell you if all your PCI endpoints are in scope or out of scope really easily, right? Or I can run a report over the last 12 months where my PCI endpoints segmented. And if they are, I can check that box and move on, right? So there's a lot of interesting use cases. I think we're all still in the exploration stage.
Absolutely agree. And I don't talk to my compliance stakeholders nearly as much as I should. So that is a wonderful use case. Thank you for bringing that up.
So I was in Singapore, and I fed it some network telemetry, and I knew nothing of the Singaporean cyber risk frameworks. And I asked AI to do it on the fly. It pulled frameworks. It said, here are the problems. You now have 24 hours to report this or else. Right? So again, we're still all learning.
Right. It's keeping us accountable. Damn.
Before I ask my question, I want to get perspective from the audience here. By a show of hands, how many people here get to enjoy the enterprise version of AIs, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini, in your own organization? Does everybody have access to an enterprise version? Show of hands. Or is everybody using the open source ChatGPT or the openly available ChatGPT? Because I had assumed, I guess I got kind of spoiled since my organization brought it to our company to make it available. And I sort of assumed that most companies were doing that. Otherwise, don't share data, right? And so going back to your question about how other companies are using AI, my teams were a little bit resistant in the beginning, not resistant, I would say, but just didn't occur to them where AI could fit in their workflows or help scale some of their workflows. And so last year, I challenged each of my teams, especially my principal engineers, how to incorporate AI into their workflows. I have an automation engineer, principal automation engineer. He's a MacGyver. He's a genius at automation, but had never really considered how can we make the SOC faster with AI? How can we triage better, and so on. And so he has seen the light and has really, really taken off with AI, so much so that I'm going to make him the AI expert for my teams and kind of oversee how we deploy AI workflows. But anyway, so he's using AI to help the SOC triage at a greater scale. Everything gets put in the notes, the ticket notes, so when the alerts get generated, they have those insights from AI. Sometimes it gets it right, sometimes not, and we'll iterate on those prompts to improve them over time. I've also challenged the threat intel team to do a lot of what you talked about today and figure out how can we do research at scale, how can we make it more tailored to our organization, and also for the internal stakeholders, for one set of PIRs for the chief security officer and the CISO, another set of PIRs for our, our GRC team, AppSec and ProdSec teams. So there's a lot of uses. I don't think we're going to be able to put the genie back in the bottle when it comes to pushing AI away and saying we can't use it yet. It's too risky from a compliance perspective. I think organizations need to secure AI at the same rate that people are wanting to adopt AI. So anyway, but my eyes have also been open to the use of AI and agentic AI and challenging my folks to show me what they can do with agentic AI. And that kind of encourages them to learn on their own and try new things. I know at least one person on my teams has already, his mind has been open, and he's very, very excited about what he can do with detection engineering and generating, framework detections before he starts to tailor those.
Are you able to share a little more on the details of how you are using AI to help with your triaging? Is your SIM agentic? Are you sending, what does that workflow look like?
So for our SIM, we use Google SecOps. We moved off of Splunk a couple years ago, right after they got acquired by Cisco. And so AI is sort of embedded in that product, but it's not quite there yet. Okay. Gemini for that product is not quite there yet. And so we are using ChatGPT Enterprise for the remainder of it, and we have our SOAR that integrates with ChatGPT via API. Cool. And sorry, your question was specifically about SOC triage.
Yes.
So for indicators, for example, IP addresses, domains, we have a variety of high-quality sources, indicator telemetry that we pay for. And so we will have, when an indicator is included in an alert or generates an alert, we'll have automation go and retrieve everything that is known about that indicator from all of our various high-quality sources. Cool. And then rack and stack that against what the low-quality sources like VirusTotal, anything that's crowdsourced basically, and have AI draw insights from all of that and say, okay, here are some related investigative leads that might be related to this particular indicator, and then whatever log entries we have that are triggered with that indicator, we'll go ahead and include those in the notes.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, we have a few paid feeds, few high-fidelity paid feeds, but our tip does a lot of that for us, but it is all plug and play, where if we don't have, URL Scan Pro, you don't get URL Scan Pro. You don't get those kind of reputational for your IOC indicators, so to speak.
Right.
So, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that's a wonderful workflow that many people can implement. And I think,
We have time for one more question.
Man, this mic's been dropped. In your script,
Yeah.
you said, or it mentioned that it needs to validate the clusters, and it's processing. How are you validating that?
I'm going to go with almost the exact same answer, and I apologize that it is not very satisfactory, but AI magic is what I know at the present time. How it is validating the clusters and how it is signifying if it believes that it is confident in clustering different articles of the same campaign, even if it's, different actors, same actors. I believe, I'm not even going to guess. I don't want to give you wrong answers. I'm sorry. I'm not 100% sure, but I can get back to you. But if that is it, I know we're going into lunch, but I did just want to throw out a bunch of thank yous. Thank you to all of you for listening to me yap and coming out. Thank you, IntelliCon, for hosting and giving me this opportunity. Thank you to Brett Tolbert. If people here don't know Brett Tolbert, he was my mentor and is actually the person who encouraged me to submit. Thanks, Zendesk, for giving me a job. And feel free to use the QR codes and check out the repo and give me tons of feedback, because there's still clearly a lot I don't know. So thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your conference.
Thank you, Don. We have a few announcements.
Okay, we're gonna start with lunch in this room, so glad you caught Jen's talk and you get first dibs on lunch. Just so you're aware, we've got all meat forward sandwiches towards the front of the line. We've got a tomato mozzarella and a garden salad lunchbox towards the end for people who want to eat vegetarian. We also have side plates of just like family style salad if you want to get your veggies in, and then some drinks. So we're going to start with you guys first and then slowly let the other people in. So enjoy, feel free to eat anywhere. We've got another like outside couch space between the elevators, and then we've got another room far over if you want to network in a quieter spot. Thanks, guys.
Hey, check, 1, 2. Hey, hey. Hey, check. Hey, hey. Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear me? We're good? Cool. All right. Awesome. we want to do an audio check just so we can make sure that this is all working properly? Yeah. Okay. Now we got to test our microphone. So just unmute real quick. Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear us? Awesome. Okay, I'm talking to you through this microphone, not the built-in Mac microphone. How does it sound? Good? A little fuzzy? Okay. Gotcha. Hey, check. 1, 2. Good? Awesome.
posted it there, and somebody tagged me. I didn't even notice it. Somebody tagged me. Right next.